Folks, if you could all take your seats, we'll get started. Folks, if you all take your seats, we'll get started. I'm McClintock. I'm the ranking Republican member on the House Water and Power Subcommittee. We're here today to hear directly from the people impacted by the federal policy that has laid waste to the Central Valley agriculture of California. I'd like to begin this ad hoc congressional forum by deferring to my distinguished colleague, Devin Nunes, for a few introductions.
Well, thank you, Tom. I want to thank the City of Fresno for opening up their City Hall for the use of this important meeting here today. And I think we're awaiting the mayor. Is Mayor Swearingen here yet? She's going to say a few brief words. We'll introduce her when she comes. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Matt Malcolm from the Boy Scout Troop 110 from Clovis, California, to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Great. Devin?
Well, thank you, Boy Scouts, for that. And I noticed that the mayor just walked in. So if we could, Mayor Swearingen, thank you for allowing us to use your facilities here. And we'd just like to invite you up to say a few words.
Well, good morning to all of you and to those who join us in the chambers this morning. It's a pleasure to have you here. We're so grateful for your leadership and for shining yet another spotlight on the issues and the challenges of water in the San Joaquin Valley and in California. As you all know, this is no longer just an agricultural versus environmental issue. This is certainly a municipal issue as our water supply here in the city of Fresno becomes increasingly challenged. So we appreciate your leadership, and to all of the participants who will speak and address you today, I'm grateful for their input and look forward to additional information coming forward, and thank you so much for your continued focus on this issue. Hope you have a very productive day. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
And thank you, Devin. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And thank again all of you for being here today. Now, this is how this is going to work. We want to leave maximum time for public input, so I've asked each of the members of Congress here today and each of the expert witnesses to limit their statements to 2 minutes each. As soon as the formal testimony is completed, I'm going to ask the experts to come up here and join us on the dais and then open the proceedings for a general public comment. I deeply regret that this is not an official congressional hearing. For many months, the Republicans on the Water and Power Subcommittee have implored the majority Democrats to hold a hearing in the Central Valley to see and hear for themselves the damage that the federal government has caused by strangling the most fertile agricultural region of our country. After our pleas were met with continued stonewalling, we decided to hold this forum and invite all members of the California Congressional delegation, Republican and Democrat, all members of the Water Power Subcommittee, Republican and Democrat, and representatives of the Obama administration and the Department of the Interior to be part of the proceedings today. Instead, after we announced this hearing, the Water and Power Subcommittee chairwoman decided to meet today in Southern California to extol the virtues of water conservation. Congress has thus made clear its intention to sacrifice the people of the San Joaquin Valley on the altar of environmental extremism. In testimony last year, Interior Secretary Ken Salazar admitted that the administration could turn the pumps back on and restore water deliveries to the Central Valley, but that it chose not to do so because, quote, that would be like admitting failure. The decision of the federal government to divert 200 billion gallons of water from Central Valley farmers in order to indulge one of the environmental left's pet causes has destroyed 500,000 acres of the most productive farmland in America and thrown 30,000 Central Valley families into unemployment. That is the true definition of failure. It's time that Congress came to the Central Valley and faced up to the economic damage and the human misery that its policies have caused. Speaking for those of us here today, we will continue to raise this issue in every forum that we can find until this folly is reversed and this injustice is set right. And now I'll yield to my distinguished colleague, Congressman Rob Bishop of Utah, the ranking Republican member on the National Parks, Forests, and Public Lands Subcommittee. Rob?
Hey, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity of being here with all of you, and thank you for letting an out-of-stater come in here. Governments do not create ideas. Ideas create government. And one of the reasons I am here is to hear ideas from you. When obviously people are suffering, that is bad. If that suffering is caused, whether intentional or not, by the government or could easily be mitigated by government actions, and that does not take place, that is an intolerable situation. And this valley is in a difficult situation. I hope you will tell me what you think of the administration's efforts, their federal drought action team that has been in place a year, the action plan that has been recently announced. I hope you'll tell me your opinions of surface water needs and the efficacy of them, of legislative approaches like the Turn the Pumps On Act, which Representative Nunes has introduced. I hope you'll tell me what you think of the Endangered Species Act, for there is indeed precedent in suspending that if there is a human need that's there. And there are those that will tell me that conservation and prioritization is the key solution here. If indeed, and this is why it's important for all of us outside of California, because you feed us. And if indeed you eventually decide that prioritization of what you grow is the important element, I just want to add for the record, I don't like cantaloupe, bell pepper, or spinach. Tomatoes. So if you decide to prioritize, I hope that would help. The livelihood of tens of thousands of people is on the line here. We do not have the luxury to ignore this vast human problem, and I appreciate the opportunity of being here. I look forward to hearing from your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Next, I'd like to introduce my good friend Devin Nunes, who, as you all know, has been driving this issue tirelessly in the House of Representatives every day. Devin?
Well, thank you, Mr. McClintock. This has been decades in the making, as most of us here in the Valley know, and I want to thank Congressman McClintock for agreeing to do this, because one of the things that we're going to have today is, because of all the media that's here, I know that Channel 26 is actually carrying this live, so this will be an opportunity for us, members of Congress, to hear from you. And we're trying to keep this not only to have some expert witnesses here, but also to have folks like yourselves come here and testify in front of members of Congress and other expert witnesses, whether you have a question or a comment. I think this is something that has been a long time overdue here. We've been trying to hold this hearing for more than a year, and unfortunately, like Mr. McClintock said, the participation was, I guess, almost nil from the other side of the aisle. In fact, so much so, just to reiterate this, when Mr. McClintock announced this hearing, they decided to hold a hearing on the very same day down in Los Angeles. So when, as we all know, this is where the suffering really is, where the water crisis has really reached its pinnacle, is here in the San Joaquin Valley. This has been decades in the making. We've had the Endangered Species Act now in place for almost 40 years. In 1992, we had the Central Valley Project Improvement Act, which was also called the Miller-Bradley Bill. At that time, this region was told that this would be the last time that they would have to give up water for the sake of the environment. That was in 1992. It wasn't but a few years later that the lawsuits came and there began this process of the San Joaquin River Settlement Act, which took about 250,000 acre-feet of water away from the east side of the valley. That water has already begun to go down the river come February 1st. There's going to be a lot more water down the river. And then followed by these biological opinions, first on the Delta smelt, and then followed by the salmon killer whale biological opinion. We are now in a situation where they're in a position to basically take or cut off all the water from this region. And so everyone's going to feel this, from Stockton to Bakersfield. It's not just going to be the farm workers and the farmers that are going to go broke. It's going to impact everyone's life here in the valley. Agriculture is too important to this valley to be ignored by Washington, D.C. politicians. And that's what this hearing is about. We're here to hear from you and here to hear from the expert witnesses. And I really want to thank my colleagues, especially Mr. Bishop, who came in from another state today, for doing this, and of course my good friend Kevin McCarthy from Bakersfield and Tom McClintock from Northern California. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin. And now I'd like to recognize our distinguished colleague, Kevin McCarthy, who's the Chief Deputy Republican Whip, for his opening statement.
Well, thank you. I just want to first, I appreciate all of you coming. And I want to thank Tom McClintock for putting this on, and especially Devin Nunes, who worked behind and just been a tremendous leader in this issue in Congress each and every day. And our ranking member, Rob Bishop, who continues to fight for us and coming all the way out here to listen. And that's what we want to hear today.